welcome back to Crypto Bits. I'm your host, Brittany, and today we have part 2 of our interview here with Stefan Matthews. But before we get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. But with that being said, do hope you enjoy, and let's get right into it.
I want to talk to you about TAL because
I want to talk about TAL too.
On your program recently, there's been some incredible misinformation and misstatements that I want to correct.
Yes, please.
If I may.
Absolutely.
TAL, how much time have we got?
We've already gone over, but I've got time if you've got time.
I got time, so you can cut this however you want.
Sure.
When I was with Enchain, I started mining. And I started mining 2016. And it was, we decided that because we were predominantly owned by an investment fund, we wanted to ensure that we had other sources of, we weren't commercializing intellectual property, but we wanted to have other at that stage, but we wanted alternate sources of funding so that we weren't going to the investment fund every year saying, here's our budget, we need another X million. And I came up with the idea that I would set up a mining operation. And I set up a company called BMG. And that was a subsidiary of sitting in the Enchain group. And it was kind of funny because I decided I wanted to buy Bitmain miners. And bear in mind, back in that time, these miners were something like $260 each. I wish I could buy them for that now, but that's another story. I've been all over their website and I knew what I wanted to buy. And I found a telephone number and I called their office in Beijing. Girl answered the phone. She spoke pretty good English. And I said, I need to talk to your director of sales or your director of business development or senior account manager or someone like that. What for? I said, I want to place an order. Oh, no, we don't take orders like that. You have to place an order through the website. I said, but I'm a first-time customer and I want to place a fairly significant order, so I think I need to talk to somebody. No, that's not the way we do business. You have to go to the website, you have to create an account, and you place your order. So back and forth for a few minutes, and I thought, oh, fuck this. This is not going to go anywhere. So I did what I did. I'm a good boy, I did what I was told. I went to the website, I created an account, I logged into the account, and I placed an order for $20 million worth of machines. And about 10 minutes later, ring, 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 ring. I go, hello.
You don't say.
And this little voice says, I need to verify. Are you Mr. Matthews? Yes. Did you recently create an account on our website? Yes. Did you place an order for $20 million worth of machines? Yes. I'm sorry, sir. We don't take orders of that size through the website. You have to talk to one of our account managers.
Wow.
So that's
you tried to be a good boy.
that was my entry into mining. And after I had set up and was running these $20 million worth of machines, I got a call from Calvin, and he goes, I'm really interested. I talk to me about what your experience is with mining. And so I told him, and he said, I really want to, because at that stage, Calvin was not an investor in Enchain, right? Need to be really clear on that. He said, I want to really get involved in this because I can see where this industry is going now. I thought I saw it all when you and I and Craig sat down on the rooftop and talked, but I'm really, really seeing it now. So I want to get involved in mining. So he said, can you work with me and set up CoinGeek Mining for me? So I did. So, we grew that into a fairly substantial operation over a couple of years. And then ultimately, for a variety of reasons, Enchain decided that mining was not a good fit for its business. Mining had a particular auditors had a particular view around mining at a point in time. So did banks and others. So we decided that we would disband the BMG stuff, and I spent a lot of time just working on Calvin's CoinGeek stuff. And it was during that period I started to think to myself, because of my history in gambling, where it's really important to control your own intellectual property, because if you're licensing games from a third party and that third party, for whatever reason, gets lent on or doesn't like what you're doing or whatever, they can terminate your license, and suddenly that affects your revenue and your player base because you just lost the game. And I thought the same way about mining machines, about ASIC machines. And I was thinking to myself, how the hell can I design my own ASIC chips and build my own miners without Bitmain finding out about it? Because that was my single source of supply. Because the industry, you whisper on one side of the world and 3 minutes later, someone on the other side of the world will be able to repeat what you whispered. And I thought, as soon as I start hiring or working with ASIC developers, I'm going to have a problem with supply from Bitmain, for sure. And then out of the blue, I was in Manila, and I was at the Shangri-La Hotel in Makati, and waiting for a guy to turn up for a meeting in the lobby, and my phone rang, and it was a friend of mine from Zurich, who had helped me with some of the funding in the Enchain arena. And he said, I've got a PowerPoint deck here that you might be interested in. Can I send it to you? And I said, what's it about? And he goes, oh, you'll understand it much more than I do, but I'm pretty sure you'll be interested in it. Okay. So he sent it to my phone, and I'm looking at it. It was about a 24-page deck, and it was from a company called Squire Mining. And it was from had the CEO's name. I can't remember his name right now. It might come to me. Had his name on the front page, and it talked about the whole Bitcoin crypto industry. And eventually it got to a page about 3/4 of the way through where they claimed to have 9 ASIC engineers sitting in Seoul in South Korea who were already working on the design of an ASIC chip for Bitcoin mining. And I went, oh, shit. So I called my mate back, and I said, where'd you get this from? He goes, well, all deals in Switzerland are done in coffee shops, right? As I've learned over the years. I mean, if the deal isn't structured in a coffee shop, it's not a proper deal. So he said, I ran into this mate of mine who had this guy with him who was already, it was in Switzerland doing the circuit, because he was doing a private placement capital raise of, I think, 4 million Canadian dollars. And that's how the deck got passed on. And I said, I need to talk to this guy. And he goes, oh, well, he's already gone. He left here a week ago. But I think from here he was flying to Australia. I said, what the fuck is he doing in Australia? I don't know, but I've got a contact number in Australia, but, the company's in Canada. Okay. So a call is set up for the next day, and I'm expecting to dial this number and hear a Canadian on the line. And the phone answers, and it goes, g'day, mate. Who's this? G'day, who's this? And I go, are you whatever your name is? He goes, yeah. I said, are you Australian? He goes, yes, mate, I am. Who are you? And I said, I'm Stefan Matthews. He said, oh, for Christ's sake, are you Australian? I said, yeah, I am. He goes, I thought I was expecting a Swiss German dude to be on the phone. So the long story short, I ended up taking a million. He had $1 million left, or close to, on this private placement. And I decided that, and it was closing within 24 hours, but he said he could get an extension. And I said, no, let's not worry about that. I'll take the $1 million just on speculation on the deck. And that what's the worst thing that could possibly happen is, I've got a million Canadian worth of shares in a Canadian shell that's got to be worth something in the future anyway. So who knows? So I ended up a few days later flying to Taiwan and then meeting this guy in Taiwan, and then flying to Korea, and everything looked reasonable. He did have these guys. He did have a relationship with Samsung. I did go to Samsung Foundry. I did sit in their boardroom and talk to their executive team. They did show me a lot of really confidential stuff. I did speak to and had lunch with one of Samsung's. When you deal with them, you've got to deal through a middleman, and all the middlemen are ex-Samsung executives. So, we got all that set up, and it all looked fair. And then I got more actively involved in Squire Mining. And as I got more and more actively involved, Calvin got involved. And it was at that stage, once Calvin and I had invested a very significant amount of money, and I can't remember when that was, we started to, the company started to change. The management team started to change. The board of directors started to change. And sort of halfway through that evolution, I learned a lot about fabricating chips during that period of time. I was sitting with the guys looking at the simulation results that were, before you go to tape out and start fabricating your engineering samples, you have to sign off. And when you sign off on the simulation results, the consequence of that is a significant amount of money, and multiple millions of dollars get paid to Samsung to be able to schedule and engineer your designs through the fabrication process. And when I was looking at the tape out results, I was sitting with the lead and I said, these results, if I'm interpreting them correctly, these results don't seem to be as good as the current S9 chip. And he goes, yeah, it's just the simulations. Don't worry, we can fix all that. But the point is, I said to him, I can't sign off on something that isn't what it was meant to be in the specifications. We are a public company and we are dealing with investors' funds here, and it would be, wrong to do this unless we had confidence in what we were going to get for this investment. And I got some third parties to come and review the tape out results and verify my interpretation, and then I closed that project down. It was we didn't waste a lot of money on it. I mean, we would have wasted a lot of money if I'd allowed tape out to occur, but we didn't. And it was at that point we sat back and thought about what the industry needed and what direction the industry was going. And it was through those discussions that we decided to pivot and rebrand Squire Mining into TAL and focus on the things that TAL focuses on today. And it's at that point, I'm going to refer to my little notes here because I want to correct a few things.
Sure.
It's been asserted that TAL manipulates the orphaning of blocks on the chain for its own purpose. I'm going to say it very clearly. I'm going to say it once. That is categorically, absolutely false. It's false because it doesn't happen, and it's never happened that way. If it did occur, it would be horrible for a public company to conduct its business that way. And we have incredibly strong legal, compliance, and risk functions within our company, probably over-engineered for what we need, because we're not a regulated business. And those functions would never consent to anything like that happening. Now, the incident that people like to refer to when they want to trash tail in this way is the block that was mined by Gorilla Pool. When you mine a block, if all the transactions in that block, no, if some of the transactions in that block haven't previously been verified by the majority of nodes on the network, and that would normally occur when they've been sent into the mempool, the public mempool. If you mine a block, and we have done this ourselves, so I know how it works. If you mine a block and you've got unverified transactions in that block, before that block is verified on the chain as a block, any unverified transactions have to be sent and verified. It might only take a second or two at the most, but during that period, it is possible for another miner, any miner on the network, to mine a block that has got all the transactions verified in it, and then it becomes the block that is mined next, and the chain gets built on that. And we've had internal discussions about this because, you know, mining at the end of the day, despite what people may say or think, mining was always designed by Satoshi Nakamoto, and I can speak with authority on this, to be a competitive process. But over the years, for some unknown reason, there's been, you could use the word collusion, cartel type operations to set minimum fees, relay fees at certain levels. And by convention, they've just been accepted. It's been accepted that that's the way that it works. But that's not the way Satoshi intended it to work, and it's not the way Satoshi designed the system to work. Miners in Satoshi's mind are totally free to set whatever pricing structures they see fit to deal with their client base. But of course, these things only start to be important when you're thinking about the transaction economy and the future of the blockchain industry. And you've got to get your head away from subsidy reward mining into transaction processing to be able to appreciate some of these points. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if you think of yourself as a business, if you're going to set your fee at X, you don't go out and tell everybody and ask for permission from all of your competitors if you can sell at X. That's not the way it works in a competitive environment. So, you know, we've mined blocks where we've had, you know, 1 Satoshi fee transactions in there, and a lot of them. And, you know, some of my people have said to me, you must appreciate, Stefan, in mining these blocks, we run the risk of that block being, quote, orphaned, because actually, if we put a 0 fee transaction in there, or transactions that haven't already been verified, there you go, could be 1 Satoshi. You run the risk of that block being orphaned while those transactions are being verified by other miners. Someone else could come in and mine a block, and you've got to start over.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've always said, I don't care about that. We just take that risk and we deal with it as it is. And I've spoken at length to Craig about those possibilities and probabilities. So I know very, very clearly what his thoughts are. So getting back to my point, no, we didn't orphan Gorilla Pool's block because we've got some sort of be up our ass about Gorilla Pool.
No. I didn't think that. I didn't think that. I know that Dean's comments were a little inflammatory. I didn't mention Dean. I'm mentioning it.
Yeah, but let it be, because, you know, it could be a misunderstanding. It could be deliberate. misinformation, I really don't care. We don't enter into those practices and we never will. And I don't believe any other legitimate miner would either. I do want to address publicly a couple of other points that have been raised in various media, not yours,
Yeah,
various media.
Let's set it straight.
About TAL entering into agreements and contracts with third parties and lowering transaction fees so that we can process the most transactions. If you think about an orphaning blocks, again, this is all rubbish. If you think about how business and commerce really works, and if you think about what our collective goal in this ecosystem should be, it should be and this is the question I ask myself almost every time I'm making a decision. What is in the best interest of the BSV ecosystem? What benefits BSV the most? So I'll answer those questions. What benefits BSV the most is growth, transactional growth and use on the blockchain. It's utility.
And what drives the utility?
Customers building, enterprises building, application developers building and using the network. So in its embryonic stages, which is where we are, you need to get transactions on the network and you need to get businesses, new industries starting to grow and flourish. They're not able to, you've got to cut your cloth to suit what you're trying to achieve. And if that means that, for one customer, for their particular use case, 100 Satoshi fee is right, or 500 Satoshi fee is right, or, or 1 Satoshi fee is right, then you structure your agreements to suit that. And it's all about volume as well. I mean, if someone's coming along and they want a 100 Satoshi fee or a 10 Satoshi fee, and their use case is generating 2 transactions a week, like, come on, guys, that's not how it works. But if you've got someone that's generating 2 million transactions a day, it's a different story, because you want that business to succeed. You want that business to grow, and you want more businesses like that business to enter the ecosystem. And what TAL does is more than just pushing transactions into a block and mining a block. We've invested a lot of money and effort into people and solutions, and some of the solutions that we're working on are not evident today, but we're building stuff and designing stuff and architecting stuff, solutions that we believe are going to be absolutely necessary in 18 months, 2.5 years' time. And we're doing a lot of evaluation work around Terranode, and we want to make sure that the deployment of Terranode, as far as we're concerned, is as solid and as efficient as it should be. And we know that there are going to be some things that miners are going to need to develop themselves. This is where the competition part comes in. You can run standard available open source solutions, or you can license or build customized solutions that are more powerful, more efficient, more functional for your clients than those open source solutions. I'm in the business of making sure that we are thought leaders and that we are providing the most functional and most serviceable transaction handling and management solutions for not only our customers of today, but our customers years into the future. And that's what we focus on, not about, whose block we're going to orphan to steal the fees on it. That is just nonsense.
I don't think anybody's truly thinking you're doing this maliciously. Some might, but
yeah, there's also been statements made that TAL is operating at a loss. We're mining at a loss to keep people out of the ecosystem. Well, may I say, the best way to prove that is the greatest load of shit that's ever come out of anyone's mouth is to go and look at our public released financial statements for Q1, Q2, Q3. And Q3, we had a board meeting last night and an audit committee meeting last night. Our Q3 results are 24 hours away from being released publicly. And we've seen growth from Q1. I think our revenue number was about 1.6 or 1.8 million in Q1 to Q2, which was about 5.6 million in Q2. And we put out a market guidance probably 2 months ago, where we said we expect our Q3 numbers to be between 11.5 and 12 million.
Well, I imagine you wouldn't be buying more SJ19 miners if you were just mining at a loss. I mean,
well, yeah, we could. We could be pulling money out of a tree, spending it on ASIC machines, firing them up and operating at a loss so that no one else can mine on the network. That's rubbish. And I'll tell you why it's rubbish, because forget the revenue number, but there is revenue growth from that to that to that. And it's massive growth quarter on quarter. And you also look at our profitability. And we are operating at a profit. At the EBITDA line, we are operating at a profit. At a net profit line, we're operating at a profit. And you'll see those numbers at the exchange and online in the next 24 hours. So are we operating at a loss to screw every other miner in the ecosystem? No, we are not. My responsibility is to run a business, and TAL is a business. It's a public company business. It's got to be run properly. We are judged on our performance. Yes, Calvin is a significant investor in TAL, but he doesn't own the whole company. There are a lot of other dollars in our cap table that are not related to Calvin. So, we have an obligation to those shareholders to run a proper, profitable business that is focused on growth, and that's exactly what we're doing. And I'm pretty excited about it. If I go back to the days of reading that Squire Mining information PowerPoint deck, thinking about would I have ever imagined in my wildest dreams that we would have been in this position only a few years later? No, wasn't even on the radar. But that's how things go.
Yeah. But well, I appreciate you setting the record straight. Let's get that out there. Well, I do. I do.
And I may as well go all in. A few times, I sit there and I listen to reasonably well-known people in this ecosystem, and I'm not talking about BSV. I'm talking about the ecosystem in general, the whole
thing,
whole group. Saying BSV's a scam, Craig's a scam, everything's a scam. And I made a decision that the next time some well-intended person makes one of those statements, I'm going to say publicly, I obviously disagree with you, but you are entitled to your opinion. And I'd like to sit down with you face to face over lunch, and I'd like you to explain to me what the scam is around that you're asserting around BSV and around Craig. And if anyone wants to assert anything around TAL, I'll bring that to the table as well, because I want to hear what it is that is causing them to form those opinions, or whether they're just rabbiting some shit that somebody else has rabbited to them, and they're making these statements from a completely uninformed position.
Could be.
Because what we're sitting with, you know this as well as anyone, what we're sitting with is a blockchain that has unlimited scaling capability, and as it scales, the transaction fees are reducing. It has the ability to do microtransactions and nanotransactions that nobody else can. It has the ability to, actually, it has the ability to scale right now and handle the total number of transactions that every other blockchain in existence on this planet right now does, consolidated.
Well, I'll just go ahead and say this, just so everybody's very clear. I do believe that Craig Wright is Satoshi. I do believe BSV is the greatest project out there. It is the real Bitcoin as far as I'm concerned. I think what you guys at Tall and Enchain and, you know, Calvin, everything that he's doing at CoinGeek, the whole ecosystem is fantastic. Where I think people draw some criticisms towards BSV is the fact that the price doesn't move. Whether you're outside of the BSV community or whether you're inside the BSV community, the people that are going to talk about BSV in a negative way or say that it's a fraud or it's a scam or this, that, and the other are most likely referring to the fact that the price isn't moving. So what do you think? Is the price being suppressed? Is it internally? Is it externally? Does the price even matter? The technology works regardless of the price. So does it even matter?
It's a very interesting couple of sentences there. Does the price matter? Well, the price matters if you're a speculative investor, right? If you buy a share or you buy a token because you want to buy a Lamborghini for Christmas, then I mean that's not how I invest. But you know, everyone's entitled to risk their hard-earned money however they want to do so. Is the price being suppressed? Yeah, it is, and we know why it's being suppressed. Because BSV is a threat. We know why Vitalik carries on. We know why Vitalik carries on with some of the statements that he does, and we've heard it from people publicly who have even worked with him. He has a fear of what BSV is capable of doing, and he should, because you know, you look at the capabilities that exist on Ethereum, and you compare that with the capabilities and the cost of operating a business or an application.
It doesn't even come
chalk
close.
And cheese. It doesn't even come close. And you go back and you say, well, why aren't more people trading in BSV? Well, because Roger Ver and a whole lot of people, Jihan Wu and guys, when we had the hash war, they didn't kill BSV in the hash war, which is what they intended to do with the way that they conducted themselves and went about it. They didn't believe that BSV was going to live. It did. What was the next thing that happened? Kill it by dropping it from all the main exchanges.
Well, that was a little internally as well, to make sure that it got dropped from the exchanges.
What do you mean internally?
Like from within the BSV community, as I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there was notices sent out like, hey, you need to take it off these exchanges.
I don't know anything about that, and I would be intrigued and shocked if there were people from within BSV wanted BSV taken off exchanges. It just doesn't make sense.
Fair enough.
But nonetheless, there are dark forces in every corner, if you look for them. And we know there's been a lot of publicity around, BSV is heavily shorted to keep its price down. So, those sorts of practices, I feel confident, and I'm not going to make a prediction within what time frame, but I feel confident that the shorting will stop one day, and the exchanges one by one will start to, through demand, start to pick up BSV. I hope that BSV doesn't find itself in a mooning type scenario where the price just skyrockets. I think that would be the wrong thing to do, because that's not what we stand for really in this ecosystem.
I can tell you, I transact with BSV every day. When was the last time? I can't remember the last time I actually made a transaction on BTC or Ethereum, and you can't even pay the gas fees for Ethereum to transact, just to move it around. But I use BSV every day. That's the utility.
I want to touch on a couple of other things, if I may, for a few minutes.
Yeah, sure.
In New York, I had the amazing pleasure of sitting privately with Scott Stornetta and Stuart Haber. Do you know who they are? The two guys that wrote the papers that were referenced by Craig in the white paper. They discovered the process of timestamping. And both of those guys appeared on stage during the conference. I believe the night, and they appeared on stage with Craig actually in a panel. And then that night, I believe they and Craig and somebody else, I can't remember. Oh, George Gilder had dinner. And then George spoke to me privately the next day about the dinner that they had. And George actually spoke then on stage that day. And he referenced the dinner. And George subsequently has made known his personal views around the BSV blockchain and its capabilities. And he references it in the context of his book, Life After Google, where he talks about a number of visions that he has and predictions that he has. And those predictions now, he says, are able to be fulfilled on BSV. And he made no bones about it when he spoke on stage, that he stood up there and said, Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto. And BSV is the real deal. But I had the opportunity to sit privately at the end of the conference. We had an after party. It wasn't great, like boozy party, but it was a party. It was a good party. And I had a private area, and I sat with Scott and Stuart, and they spoke to me openly about their creations and how they felt about their creations being incorporated into the Bitcoin blockchain, the Bitcoin white paper, and how positive they were around the whole BSV solution, and how pleased they were to have the opportunity to meet and speak with Craig face to face. So for me to be able to, after all this time, actually, I hung out for a while at the party with Stuart, and exchanged numbers at the end of that, and promised that anytime I was coming back through New York, that we would hook up for either a drink or dinner. So there's just a couple of side bits.
I'm so sorry. Why didn't you go ask?
Oh, hello.
Here. Say
Oh,
hi.
banana.
Go ahead,
Saying, look at that, look at that strange Australian guy.
I'm so sorry.
That's cool.
My husband, he's supposed to be watching them.
I've got my daughter waiting for me, hopefully on Sunday or Monday, who I haven't seen for about 5 months.
Goodness, it's a long time.
Yeah.
I apologize for that, though.
No, that's okay. So there we go. I think I've covered a lot of things.
I'm glad that you went ahead and set the record straight.
I have no interest in suppressing anybody's ability to speak their mind and to state what they believe, but I do deserve the right to correct
absolutely
what they say if I believe that what they've said is substantially inaccurate, and to a point where I believe it needs to be corrected. And if they want to write a reply to that, I'm more than happy to deal with that as well, because that's what the world is all about.
Absolutely. I like your take on it. I mean, it's good. I was kind of hoping that you would come on here and want to make some responses to Dean, but I was almost under this impression like, he's a big man. He's not going to have time to watch my little show, my little peon show.
But, I did.
Here we are. It's almost kind of flattering in a way. I know Brittany, how busy you are.
Good news travels fast.
Oh, well. Well, yeah. Well,
yeah, and to be honest, when I accepted your invitation to come on the show, it never crossed my mind to use this as a forum to respond to anything Dean said. But it's only in the last couple of days when I've been thinking about, what sort of things might come up in the conversation today. I thought, well, if it does come up and there's an opportunity to talk about it, I will set the record straight, because I believe it needs to be set straight.
No, absolutely. 100%. I did want to ask you though, we were talking about miners. We've been talking about miners for a while, but in July, you guys said that you were surpassing your expected goal of 450 petahashes a second. What is your revised? I'm sure you guys are going to have a revised goal with the addition of the 1,000 new SJ19 miners coming, I think next month, and then I think
they start delivery in early December, and I think there's 2 drops in December, and there's a drop in January, and I think the 4th drop might be late January or early February.
Q1. I think I think there was supposed to be 1,000 next month, and then like 3,000 in like January or somewhere around there. What do you think we can expect in terms of hashes once you guys get all those new fancy miners?
That's a good question, and what I should say is you should wait for our press releases, because I can't divulge things that are not already public domain. Otherwise, right, I will get my fingernails pulled.
I guess you couldn't answer the next question. You said that in the past you were interested in you were talking to the guy that you can't remember his name, and that whole situation didn't quite work out, and you could have lost a lot more money, but you got out early enough, so because you realized that what they were trying to deliver isn't what was promised. Is Tall interested in acquiring a chip manufacturing company, or interested in research on how to make mining more efficient in the future? Or
yeah, look, I think the latter. What I'm really interested in is how the function of mining is going to change over the next 5 years, or maybe even 10 years. If you think 5 years down the track, are we still going to be ordering ASIC shoeboxes from Bitmain and racking them and operating the way we are today? I don't know. I suspect that there's going to be some technological capability that will enable us to generate hashes in another fashion that might be more efficient, less capital intensive. And I'm really interested in R&D that tests that out. And it's an area that I have had some preliminary conversations with Dr. Wright because, Craig and I talk a lot about not so much about things that happen today, but things that are in the future. Oftentimes when you talk with Craig, you're going, hang on, where the fuck is he in this conversation? And you realize, a lot of people drop out before that, but if you hang in there, you realize that he's 10 years in the future.
Right.
Right. And his mind conceptually has built a bridge into this point that's 10 years in the future, but you've got no idea how he got there. But I have had those conversations with Craig about what's going to change in mining and what's going to change in transaction processing, transaction management, data management. And I'm going to be focusing a lot of my personal time over the next year or two into developing those areas of thought for TAL. I've said and we've said that TAL is a thought leader, and I intend to demonstrate that through the development of customized solutions, customized nodes, and so on and so forth, that we can take care of. That should, or the intent would be that it positions us in a to be able to do different things to what other generic miners do on the network. And I believe that we need to do that if we're going to be true to the development of contracted transaction processing with our expanding client base. So that's
kind of the
really
roadmap important over the next few years.
Yeah, and we're not a one-trick pony. We just don't mine blocks, and we just don't handle transactions. We're doing a lot of things with tokens and tokenization, and with STAS in this token area. I believe that technology is incredibly powerful and incredibly important for BSV, and we're fortunate to be in a position where we work with it. We made an acquisition a year or so ago of What's on Chain, and a lot of people question me about why TAL would want to make that acquisition. They couldn't see the value in it, but they don't ask me that question these days when they sit there and they see the What's on Chain API calls gone from 500,000 a month to 2,000 a month to 24,000 a month to 24 million to 72 million to 92 million API calls a bloody month. And they sit there now going, oh, this is incredible. And I go, well, you told me 18 months ago that you couldn't see the value in this, but here it is. And we're going to see the same sort of growth occurring, I believe, with STAS. And one of the things that I'm going to, again, spend a lot of my personal attention on is a couple of strategic acquisitions that I think are going to be really important in terms of the technology capabilities of the TAL group that will benefit the BSV blockchain enormously. And I think because of those factors will generate transactional activity on chain and benefits for why application developers and enterprise clients will want to build their solutions on BSV, because we've got additional tools and additional capabilities that would make it a more attractive proposition for them, apart from the obvious benefits of BSV as a platform.
Right. So it sounds like you're definitely going to be pushing more innovative ideas and looking to incorporate some things that are going to be very beneficial for BSV as a investor or a supporter or a developer, or just rather a regular person in BSV. What do you think that we should be focusing on to help further the community, to help further the project? I mean, should we? What should we be focused towards?
Well, the person in the street who is not an app developer or a business that's building solutions, then they are obviously either a user or an investor. So if you're an investor, you've got two paths you can take. You can buy and hold BSV or trade it, or you could buy stock in shares in a company like TAL, which holds BSV on balance sheet and is also generating income through the transactional processing and mining activities that we have today, but through the investment that we're making in thought leadership and other technical complements to the system, like STAS and like what's on chain. So, and you know, I believe personally that BSV is undervalued. I made a statement. I made a statement a couple of months ago. Someone asked me a very direct question about what I thought the BSV price should be, and I drew comparison to Ethereum because I thought Ethereum was probably the most appropriate comparator in terms of capabilities to what we're dealing with here in the BSV ecosystem. Of course, I'm going to say that, you know, BSV is superlative to Ethereum, but put that aside for the moment. And yet Ethereum has a price of, you know, what is it? $4,500.
Yeah, something like that.
And BSV's, you know, teetering around $200. And a guy contacted me the next day, a very smart guy, a guy in California, a lawyer actually. And he said, Stefan, can I point something out to you? Ethereum was the right comparator in my mind, but you shouldn't be comparing the Ether price with the BSV price. You should be comparing the market caps, because it's only the market cap that counts, not the individual token price. And I went, he's absolutely right. So, you know, comparing prices is of individual tokens as they trade is a irrelevant metric, really. We should be comparing market caps. So if we do that, in terms of value and capabilities, by comparison to other market caps in this industry, BSV is massively undervalued. Do I want that to change overnight? No. If it's going to change, I want it to change progressively and for the right reasons, not because of speculation. Secondly, and by the way, I think there's a lot of tokens out there that are way overinflated because of speculation, but let's not go there. Then think about TAL. Excuse me. Anyone with a calculator will be able to sit down and look at the third quarter results and our year-to-date results that will be out within the next 24 hours. They can probably sit down at the end of the year, if, you know, touch wood, if everything goes according to plan, and do the same thing. And unless something changes, they'll see by comparators to other public listed mining companies, by multiples, TAL is significantly undervalued as a business by comparison. So I think that's because the market wants to see whether our growth that we exhibited in Q2 is continuing and sustainable through Q3. and we did make give those the guidance numbers of 11.5 to 12, which is, you know, growth from 5.6 the previous quarter, and we haven't made any statements to the market about not reaching those guidance numbers. So that should be something that you can take away, but you can read about it in the next 24 hours, as I say. And then, you know, with the additional capabilities that we've got being delivered, which is a sunk investment at this stage, that will come online in December and January, that'll make a significant increase in our capabilities. But, you know, at this point in time, let's be completely honest, at this point in time, I can't put all that hash on BSV. It would be irrelevant. But if BSV price went to $400, $500, then there would be an opportunity for that hash to economically come onto the network, and there would be space in there for other miners to take advantage of the profit that would be available within the BSV system to come onto the network. Do I think it's a good thing for there to be additional hash and more miners on the network? Absolutely, yes, I do. If BSV was trading at let's say $600, so it would be 3 times its current price, there should be 3 times the amount of hash on that network, and that hash should be other miners coming into the network and joining into the BSV story. And I hope that is the case.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm not in the business of saying, well, you know, if the network doubles, I want to double our hash. That's not how it works. You know, I want an appropriate piece of a large pie. It doesn't have to be the dominant piece, but I want to be the most productive, the most capable, the most feature-rich supplier of capabilities to meaningful businesses that want to process on this network.
Well, any mining company should want those same goals. So I don't see a problem with it. Well, I mean, if you're going to be competitive.
But 95% of other mining companies only want to mine block rewards.
Yeah, I get that too. So
yeah, that's the distinction.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we covered, I think you covered a lot of the questions that I was going to ask you throughout this interview. But I will, I've got one more. Uh-oh. And that is, if anything were to happen to Craig or any of the other amazing figureheads in this space, do you think we would be able to continue on with this project? If we did lose Craig, or you know, or
have you got any ideas about where he's going?
I'm not, you know, I mean, hey, the world could get hit by a meteorite or a meteor tomorrow. You know,
look, I take your point. I think this project, I think this ecosystem has crossed a tipping point now.
So with or without him, I mean, obviously we want him here. You know, I'm not projecting anything's going to happen to Craig. Simply coming from a realistic standpoint that things do happen in this world that are unforeseeable, and sometimes you're blindsided by the events that happen to you in this lifetime.
And I hope Craig is around, and I hope Craig is in my life for a fucking long time.
Absolutely.
Because he and I talk about amazing things and capabilities that I know some of them are a couple of years away, some of them are 10 years away. But I made a decision. In 2015. In 2014, I'd left the gaming industry, and because I just had enough of it. And I had gone off to do a number of things. Some of those things were projects that I was working on with Calvin. Some of them weren't. And when I reunited with Craig, and I thought about where, I call it crypto, had gone, and what the capabilities for blockchain technology was, I made a decision at that point that for the rest of my life, I was going to do nothing other than devote all of my time to businesses, people, growing businesses, and relationships that would project the value proposition of blockchain technology. Because I thought that's where the industry had stagnated and fucked up. And I wanted to do whatever I could to make that right. And going forward from here, whether I live 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, whether I die at 80, 90 or 110, to the day I die.
You're not retiring.
I'm not retiring, and I spend a lot of money on all sorts of pills and magic potions that are meant to be anti-aging. So, and that is because I want to work with this technology forever if I can. Now, I know that that's not possible, but I'm not done yet. I've got a lot of years that I want to see the ideas that Craig generates, the ideas that others generate, and that I've been involved in generating, come to fruition. And is the world and is this blockchain technology going to be better off if Craig is sitting there for the next 30 years spewing out more ideas and visions around it? Absolutely, it will be. That's all he lives for, really. His wife and family, yes, but outside of his wife and family, what he cares about absolutely and totally is this technology. Like nobody I have ever seen in my life before. And I take a lot of inspiration from that.
Would you even go so far as to say that he's one of the people that you look up to? Because I'm curious. You don't just become a powerful man, a powerful figure without having a idol or a mentor or a hero, somebody that you look up to. And given the explanation of how you met Craig and how everything came to be, and how kind of in the beginning you were like, this will never work, and then you even said, I was proven wrong, and now I'm at this point where I'm like, I love this space and I want to see it. I want to see it through. Would you say that Craig is kind of your idol?
I wouldn't say Craig's my idol, but what I will say is, I absolutely admire the intellect and insight and the vision that man has. And I've never met or worked with anybody who would ever come close. I mean, I've listened to George Gilder speak a number of times, and I thought, my God, that man's got he's got an incredible mind. But Craig, a few people have said to me, a couple of people I've worked with actually, have said to me, Stefan, what would you give to have the intellect of Craig Wright?
I'd say it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, exactly. That's almost what I said. Absolutely nothing. I wouldn't want Craig's intellect. That ability that he has inherited from somewhere causes a lot of struggles that he has personally. You look at I don't think anyone would wish to stand in the shoes of what Craig has had to endure since December 2015 through until fairly
He's
recent
very
times.
much the victim.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to remember through 2015, 2016, 2017, which were when things were at their worst, I was the person standing by Craig's side. I lived the pain and the shocking and disgusting at times treatment that people were spewing out all over the place aimed at that man. And standing there knowing that it was all made up, it was all untrue, it was designed for a particular purpose and intent. And there are at times I just thought, I didn't know how to deal with it. And I thought, how the fuck is Craig personally dealing with this? And how is his family dealing with this? And then when I say family, I'm not just talking about, wife and kids. I'm talking about sisters and mothers. And, it's shocking for people to read some of the things that have been written that they know is untrue about a loved one. And for me to sit there as a colleague and a friend and witness it, it's disgraceful. And I struggled at times to know how for me to process it, let alone to, be there as a support mechanism for Craig in those years as well. But, as the world moves through cycles, it's moving through a cycle. And, we don't know what is going to happen in Florida over the next 2 or 3 weeks, but we can be rest assured that the world ain't going to be the same place afterwards. And just to cap this conversation off, for the very limited amount of social media that I expose myself to, I've still had people sending me messages, and they do come through 1 or 2 a week, saying to me, Stefan, you should be ashamed of yourself associating with Craig Wright, who's an obvious fraud and an obvious tax evader and so on, a convicted. They use the word convicted tax evader, and I just think I just block, go away. What's the point? One of the things I learned from a friend of mine a few years ago was there is no point replying to these people because that's where they suck their power from. I know, we know, the people who know that it's bullshit. The people who don't know that want to believe it, well, they should wake up to themselves and do their own research.
Well, everybody's got to start somewhere, and sometimes people don't even want to start. And by that, I mean doing the research.
And the funniest question I've been asked probably 30 or 40 or 50 times, why do you believe Craig is Satoshi?
You were like, I was there. I saw.
For fucking Christ's sake. Have you heard my history? Yeah, the postman told me, so it must be true.
I forget who was saying. I think Kurt was saying it in one of the videos talking recently, where he said that he was talking to somebody, I forget who, and they said that, well, everybody in Australia knows that Craig is Satoshi.
There's a shitload of people in Australia that do know, including a bunch of lawyers and including a bunch of people at the tax office.
Oh my goodness. Well, I can't wait to get to meet him one day. That is it's definitely going to be a pleasure.
You've never met him?
No, I wanted to go to CoinGeek this year so bad. But the things with the kids and the husband and everything, it just didn't quite work out this year. But
the next CoinGeek is I think around about the 17th of March in Dubai, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's in Dubai. It's just I think it's around about the 15th or 17th of March.
Well, definitely see if I can make it out to that one. But soon. I want to
Yeah.
meet the man that this whole space came out of his brain.
Craig
Just to
is
shake his hand or something and say thank
well.
you.
He will shake your hand, and he's very approachable. And so many people have said to me over the years that have met him or been introduced to him, because I've said to a few people, actually, I've said to a couple of people, "Do you want to meet him?" No. Why not? I don't want anything to do with him. Why not? If I meet him, I'm going to get terrorized by others. I don't want anything to do. I don't want to know. Isn't that amazing situation that this world has driven people into to that point? But
I
those that
obviously
have,
don't care. I have a whole
yeah,
channel talking about the space. I don't care about the trolls, so to
yeah,
speak.
and yet those that have been like on the fence, that I've made the offer, do you want to meet him? Because he's going to be here tomorrow and I can introduce you to him. And those that have said yes, they've all come away and gone, holy shit, he's nothing like I would have imagined. He's nothing like his persona comes across in social media. He's a proper down-to-earth bloke who comes across as incredibly intelligent and spoke to me like a normal person. I said, well, he is a fucking normal person.
He's an alien.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So anyway,
Well,
that's where we are.
I definitely appreciate everything that you've shared with me today. It's definitely been a wealth of knowledge, and I can't thank you enough for just coming on and sharing your time with me and my viewers. And it's an honor. It's a privilege for sure, and I appreciate
Thank you
that.
very much. Love the chat, and I'm sorry we rattled on for 2 hours. So
I'm not sorry at all. It was a good 2.5 hours, my friend. But with that being said, I do think that is going to conclude it for us today, guys. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.